Hi, it's Bethany Jobb here with my second video. My first video was called The Early Years, and it talked about my life growing up on a farm. It was a very good experience, a family-owned business, and we kids all helped run the farm. But when I was 18, I decided that instead of going to my fifth year of high school, I wanted to go to college and take some library science classes. When I was in high school, I worked in the library during breaks and at lunchtime, and I really enjoyed reading. My mother, when we were young, read to us all the time, so all of my siblings enjoy reading because of her reading to us as children at bedtime. So when I went to college, I signed up sort of last minute. I hadn't pre-registered, and usually you sign up and try to get into the college in January, but this was late August in the summertime before I was to go to the fifth grade in high school, and I told my mother that I felt that I should not go to high school but go to college. And she said okay, and for some reason or another didn't really give me a hard time about it. So we went to a city which is about an hour and 20 minutes from our country farm, and I was able to register. There was openings in the class that I wanted to take, and when we were there, we met up with a gal from high school that I had known. We weren't really close friends, but I knew of her, and she saw Mom and recognized her and said that she was looking for a roommate. So my mom said, well, Bethany's decided she wants to come to college this year, so maybe you two could room together. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up being roommates for the school year. And my first day at college, I was very nervous, and when it came time to have lunch, I was extremely nervous, and so I sat down and got some lunch and sat across from a gentleman who ended up becoming a good friend of mine. And actually his mother and I are very close even to this day, which is about 38 years now. I've become sort of part of their family, and have been around the family for a long time, and am considered sort of like a daughter. They had only one child and took in a lot of foster children over the years and helped raise a lot of children, but they themselves only had one child, Tim. So I've been around their family for many, many years. After the first year in college, I decided that I needed to get a summer job, and so I went to work in my back home and actually operated a van, a library van. So I ran around to different places where kids were, and they could sign out library books on the van. So it was a new thing, and I think it was the first year that I actually tried it, and it was very successful. And my parents started to have some financial difficulties, so I decided that I didn't want to burden them with another year in college, so I went looking for a job, and much to my parents' surprise, I did end up getting a job in a library high school. And I worked in that high school for a year, and I was not very tall, and so even some of the grade 13 students, there was a grade 13 at that time, I didn't look very old, and so they were surprised that I was the library assistant. But I did that for a year, and then I was getting married, and my future husband had moved with me to where I was working, but then he became unemployed and came back to London. We weren't living in London at the time, came back to London and found employment. So I decided that I would make the move to London, and got a job at that time at the University Library here in London. And again, it was on a contract basis, but I did work there for an 8-month period. And after the school year was over, I decided that I needed a more permanent position, because it was only year to year on an 8-month contract. So I went out looking for a job. And as I'd mentioned in my previous video, I'd always wanted to work for myself, but still was working for other people. But I ended up working in a bookstore, and I spent a year in the bookstore, and I worked with the books in the bookstore, and it was a different experience than working in a library, but it was something that I did enjoy doing, and I did it for the year. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to spread my wings and do something different. So for a while, my husband and I went door to door selling different products. And I'd never done this before, but I wasn't as nervous as I expected to be. And so we did this for at least summer. And then I decided I did need to get a more permanent position again. So I started looking around and joined an employment agency. And I stayed with them for quite a while and did different jobs while I was there. So sometimes you got a job for a 1 week period, sometimes a 3 week period. And I ended up getting a job with 3M, which was a Scotch tape company, on a temporary basis. And I was there for a temporary assignment, and they liked my work so much that they offered me a full-time position. So I ended up staying there and working at 3M for 22 years. And it was a good experience. It was a large company, but I got to do different things over the 22-year period. But I still was looking for a business of my own. So I would do things on the side. My husband and I parted ways, and so but before we did, he had told me about an opportunity with multi-level marketing. And I'm sure you've all heard of the company, but I joined under him and became an Amway distributor. And through that, I met my future second husband in the Amway business. And we met and we started to go out, and eventually after 4 years of being together, we did get married and have been married now for 30 years. But we did Amway for quite a while. We never made a lot of money at it, but we met a lot of people, and it taught us how to dream. And that was something that, even though my parents were self-employed farmers and business people, I never really understood how to dream. Of course, I mentioned in my previous video that my father liked sailing, and he would buy a sailboat, in fact a different sailboat each year. And so he was a dreamer, but I didn't understand that he was at the time. So I am grateful to Amway for teaching me how to dream. We used to go to the different events that Amway would have, and during the event we would go out and wander the parking lots and see the motor coaches that different distributors owned that were very successful in Amway. And it got us thinking that there's more to life than the 9 to 5. But eventually we decided that we couldn't keep doing Amway. We weren't successful at it. And in the meantime, I had an opportunity to purchase a business from a woman that I got to know at 3M. She would come in and meet with the print shop people who did work for her. They were actually working for 3M, but she had them do things that 3M asked her to do, and she used them to get the printing done. So I got to know her. So I purchased, with another woman, I purchased her business. After about 6 months of talking with her about it, I decided that maybe it was something that I wanted to do. So in my future video, I will talk about owning my own business, plus still working at 3M for a while. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch up with you on the next video. Have a great day.